Hello everyone and welcome to Characteristics of Life mini lesson. Now this is a very small lesson, but that's okay because that's what we're here for, to get things done. Now we want to start this class by understanding what are living things. First of all, living environment. Living environment speaks about all the living things and its environment together. So I want to make sure that we understand what is considered living. What is living? And grading regions for so many years, there are students who don't think that plants are living or unicellular organisms like bacteria are living or insects. So it's not just us, humans and animals, that are living, but it's also these unicellular organisms. Unicellular means a living organism that is made up of one cell. Multicellular organisms are, animals, and us, organisms that are made of multi cells, a lot of cells, more than one cell. So here we have a bear, a dolphin, a human, giraffe, insect, tree, plants are living, cats, dogs. You get it. These are all living things, and we're going to talk about what makes things living. What are the characteristics that make something living? Okay, what are the characteristics? Characteristic number one is that living things use energy to maintain life. How do we get energy? Humans get energy by eating. You eat food, you drink water, you breathe in oxygen. So all of those things, us eating food, food is fuel. So we get energy from that. How do plants get their energy? They get their energy from the sun. Most plants get their energy from the sun through the process of photosynthesis. So all living things get energy from somewhere, and they need energy. So all living things need energy. Number two, all living things need nutrients. We eat, fruits and vegetables, and some of us eat meat, some of us don't eat meat, but we eat food, the food that we know. We know that if you have pets, you have to feed them, so all living things need nutrients. All living things excrete waste. Okay, so all living things excrete waste. So we excrete our waste through our excretory system and sweating. We have a whole chapter on this in the future chapters on the excretory system, but this is how we remove waste. I don't want to concentrate too much on this because, again, we have a huge lesson on this in the future, but all living things excrete waste. All living things grow and develop. You were once a baby, and before that, you were a one-celled organism called a zygote. But now you are an adolescent. You are either 11, 12, 13, 18 years old, 20, 22. Who knows what your age is, but the point is you're definitely not a baby. So you grew and developed. All living things grow and develop, or have their stages of developmental growth from the beginning to the end. Now, unicellular organisms, they are one-celled and they stay one-celled, but they also have a lifespan. They grow and develop. Number four, they maintain homeostasis. Now, this is going to be part of the vocabulary that you're going to find in this chapter. Homeostasis is the ability to maintain internal stable environment. And I put a lizard here because lizards are cold-blooded, so they have to find an environment where they can have the temperature, their internal body temperature, that will allow them to have their cells work in the right environment. For example, their enzymes need to be able to function in a particular environment, in a particular temperature. What about us humans? Think about the temperature when you take your temperature. What is it supposed to be? Think about it. So it's supposed to be around 96 to 97 to 98 degrees Fahrenheit. So if your body is too hot, you like your temperature is like 101, 102, you then have a fever. Think back of when you had a fever. How did you feel? You felt pretty bad, right? You felt sick. You didn't feel good. That's because your body was not at its optimal temperature. And again, we're going to talk about enzymes in the future, in a future chapter. But the responsibility of your body is to make sure that you're maintaining a stable internal environment, that you are not sick, you don't have organ failure, you don't have a fever, you don't have hypothermia where your temperature is too low. All living things must maintain homeostasis. All living things reproduce. Animals reproduce, humans reproduce. What do you think this is, this picture over here? These are fish eggs, and those circular silver looking luminescent things are the eyeballs. And fish can have thousands of living organisms. Now they can reproduce thousands of fish in one cycle. And I'm sure you've heard of caviar. Caviar is just a bunch of fish eggs, and it's considered a delicacy. But fish and other animals have to overproduce. We can't have a 100,000 humans in one shot, but other animals need to, because they could be affected by predators, disease. There's so many things that can kill initially all of these fish as soon as they're born, or even when they're in this stage. So they have to overproduce to make sure that there are enough fish that survive and grow to be an adult and then start the cycle again of reproduction. Reproduction, though, is not necessary for the survival of the organism. For example, humans. I'm sure we know tons of humans who haven't had babies, who don't have children, and they're going to live until, they're going to live until whenever they live, and it's not going to affect them. Having a child does not affect your longevity. It doesn't affect your life. So that's the only thing, but all living things reproduce. This is the number one most important thing about knowing when something is considered living. All living things are made up of cells. In a Regents question, when you are asked what makes something living, the first thing that should come up to your head and memory is that all living things are made up of cells. If the living organism, or if the thing you're observing does not have cells, it is not living. It is something else. Rocks are not made up of cells, so they're not living. The air isn't made up of cells. Water is not made up of cells. So please do not confuse those things. It must have cells. So plants, humans, animals, unicellular organisms, anything that's made up of a cell is considered living. Short lesson, right? So now that you know some characteristics of life and know what makes something living, let's go ahead and take a quiz.